In 1789, the price of a single loaf of bread in Paris had risen so high that the average French worker was spending nearly 90% of his daily wage just to feed his family. Not rent, not clothing, bread. When the price spiked again that summer, something snapped. Mobs of women marched on Versailles chanting for bread, dragged the royal family back to Paris by force, and lit the fuse on the French Revolution. A loaf of bread helped end a monarchy that had ruled for 1,000 years. That sounds absurd. Bread is the most boring food on earth. It's in your pantry right now, going slightly stale, completely unremarkable. But the truth is, bread is not boring. Bread is one of the most dangerous substances humans have ever created. It has started revolutions, ended them, fed empires, and starved millions when it disappeared. For most of human history, the line between civilization and collapse was the price of a loaf. So how did a mixture of crushed grass seeds and water become the single most politically explosive food on the planet? The story starts almost 14,000 years before Paris ever existed. Around 12,000 BC, in a region of the Jordanian desert known today as Shubaika, hunter-gatherers were doing something archaeologists didn't think humans had figured out yet. They were grinding wild grass seeds, wild wheat and barley into a coarse flour, mixing it with water, and cooking it on hot stones. This was 4,000 years before agriculture even existed. These people weren't farmers. They were nomads who happened to find a plant that, when crushed and burned, turned into something dense, filling, and strange. Archaeologists found the charred remains in 2018, and it rewrote the entire timeline of human food history. Bread didn't come after farming. Bread came first. Bread may be the reason humans started farming at all. Think about that for a second. Humans didn't domesticate wheat because they wanted bread. They invented bread, fell in love with it, and then reorganized their entire way of life, abandoning the nomadic hunt for a fixed, settled existence just to keep making it. By around 9500 BC, in the region known as the Fertile Crescent, modern-day Iraq, Syria, and Turkey, early humans began deliberately planting wild wheat instead of just gathering it. This is the moment agriculture was born, and it didn't happen because humans wanted variety in their diet. It happened because they wanted more bread more reliably in one place. This decision seemed small at the time. It was not. Settled agriculture meant permanent villages. Permanent villages meant surplus food. Surplus food meant population growth, social hierarchy, property ownership, and eventually, the first cities. Bread is arguably the single ingredient that ended the hunter-gatherer era of human existence and built the first foundations of civilization itself. For thousands of years, this early bread was flat, dense, and almost certainly unpleasant, closer to a cracker than what we'd recognize today. The bread that actually changed everything required a second accident, and it happened in ancient Egypt sometime around 3000 BC. Egyptian bakers left a bowl of wheat dough out, uncovered, longer than they meant to. Wild yeast, naturally present in the air, on the grain, on human hands, settled into the dough and began to feed on its sugars, releasing carbon dioxide as a byproduct. The dough didn't stay flat, it rose. Someone, somewhere, decided to bake the risen dough anyway, instead of throwing it out. What came out of the oven was lighter, airier, and almost unrecognizably better than anything bread had ever been before. Egypt did not just discover leavened bread. Egypt built an entire civilization economy on top of it. Archaeological evidence shows Egyptian workers, including the laborers who built the pyramids, were paid not in coins, but in bread and beer. Tomb paintings from the era show bakeries operating at industrial scale, with workers kneading dough with their feet in massive troughs. Egyptologists have identified over 15 distinct shapes and varieties of bread depicted in tomb art, some shaped like animals, some braided, some clearly reserved for religious offerings to the gods. Bread wasn't just food in Egypt. It was currency, it was religion. It was the literal payment that built one of the greatest architectural achievements in human history. The Greeks took Egyptian leavening techniques and refined them, but it was Rome that turned bread into something closer to a political instrument than a food. By the 2nd century BC, Rome had a problem. The city's population had exploded into the hundreds of thousands, and a huge portion of its citizens were poor, unemployed, and politically volatile. Roman senators understood something brutally simple. A hungry population is a population that revolts. So in 123 BC, the tribune Gaius Gracchus introduced a law guaranteeing subsidized grain to Roman citizens. By the time of Emperor Augustus, roughly 200,000 Roman citizens were receiving free grain rations from the state every single month. This program eventually evolved into what historians call panem et circenses, bread and circuses. Free bread plus violent public entertainment used deliberately to keep the masses fed, distracted, and politically docile. The Roman government did not see bread as charity. They saw it as a tool of control. Keep people's stomachs full, and they won't ask uncomfortable questions about who's actually in power. Roman bakers, pastores, became so essential to public order that the profession was eventually made hereditary by imperial decree. You weren't simply allowed to stop being a baker. The state needed bread flowing constantly, and individual freedom mattered less than the stability that bread provided. Rome built bakeries into the architecture of empire itself. Archaeologists excavating Pompeii found bakeries with stone mills still intact, frozen in time by the eruption of Vesuvius in 79 AD. 40 bakeries have been identified in that single city alone. And when the grain shipments from Roman Egypt and North Africa were disrupted by piracy, by bad harvests, by political instability, Rome itself became unstable. Bread riots in the late Roman Empire were not rare events. They were warning signs, and eventually, they became symptoms of an empire that could no longer feed itself. After Rome collapsed, bread didn't disappear. It became something far more dangerous, a marker of class. In medieval Europe, the type of bread you ate told everyone around you exactly where you stood in society, instantly, without a single word spoken. The wealthy ate bread made from finely sifted white wheat flour, pale, soft, and expensive to produce, because sifting out the bran and germ wasted a significant portion of the grain. This was called manchet bread, and it was reserved almost exclusively for nobility and clergy. The poor ate bread made from rye, barley, or whatever coarse grain was locally available, dense, dark, and often mixed with whatever filler was necessary to stretch a limited harvest. In the worst famine years, this meant bread cut with ground acorns, beans, or even sawdust. This wasn't a minor culinary difference. It was a visible, edible class system. You could look at a person's loaf of bread on a market table and know within seconds whether you were looking at a noble's table or a peasant's. The phrase upper crust, referring to wealthy elites, comes directly from this era. The story goes that the top portion of a loaf, the actual upper crust, was reserved for the head of household or honored guests, while servants and children received the burnt bottom. Bread was so central to medieval survival that European governments began regulating it directly. In England, the assize of bread and ale, passed in 1266, set legally mandated prices and weights for loaves sold publicly. Bakers caught cheating customers, selling underweight loaves, faced punishments ranging from fines to public humiliation in the pillory. This is also where the phrase baker's dozen originates. bakers, terrified of being accused of shorting customers and facing brutal penalties, began throwing in an extra loaf, 13 instead of 12, just to guarantee they were never caught under-delivering. Bread had become so politically sensitive that an entire branch of medieval law existed purely to regulate it. If bread built civilizations, the absence of bread destroyed them just as efficiently. And nowhere is that more obvious than in 18th century France. By the 1780s, the French monarchy was in deep financial crisis. King Louis XVI's government had spent enormous sums supporting the American Revolution against Britain, and French finances were collapsing under the weight of war debt. Meanwhile, a series of catastrophic harvests in 1788 sent grain prices soaring across the country. In Paris, the price of a 4-pound loaf of bread, the basic daily ration for a working family, rose to nearly 15 sous, while the average laborer earned roughly 20 to 30 sous a day. That meant bread alone could consume half to nearly all of a worker's daily wage, before accounting for rent, clothing, or anything else. This is the part most people never learn about. The French Revolution is often taught as a story about liberty, equality, and political philosophy. And it was. But underneath the philosophy was something far more immediate. People were starving, and they watched the monarchy live in extraordinary luxury at Versailles, while bread became unaffordable in the capital. On October 5th, 1789, thousands of Parisian women, many of them market vendors and laborers who dealt with bread shortages daily, marched roughly 12 miles from Paris to the Palace of Versailles. They weren't initially marching for democracy. They were marching for bread. Armed with kitchen knives, pikes, and whatever weapons they could find, they forced their way into the palace and demanded the royal family return to Paris, where they could be watched and held accountable for the food crisis. The March on Versailles is considered one of the pivotal early moments of the French Revolution. Marie Antoinette, whether she actually said it or not, became forever associated with the apocryphal phrase, "Let them eat cake." A quote almost certainly never spoken by her, but one that captured exactly how disconnected the monarchy seemed from a population that couldn't afford bread. 4 years later, both Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette were executed by guillotine. A 1,000-year-old monarchy ended in part because of the price of a loaf of bread. If you're finding this story interesting, hit subscribe. We cover stories like this every week, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. For nearly all of human history, bread was made the same painstaking way. Grain ground by hand or millstone, dough mixed and kneaded by hand, leavened with wild yeast cultures that took hours or days to properly rise, and baked in wood-fired ovens that required constant skilled attention. The Industrial Revolution destroyed that entire process within a single century. Steam-powered roller mills, introduced widely by the 1870s, could process grain faster and more finely than any millstone in human history, stripping away the bran and germ to produce the soft, white flour that had once been a luxury reserved for nobility. What had once been the bread of kings became the bread of everyone. In 1928, an American engineer named Otto Rohvetter unveiled the first commercially successful bread slicing machine in Chillicothe, Missouri. The invention was so transformative to everyday convenience that it gave rise to one of the most common phrases in the English language: the best thing since sliced bread. Within just a few years, pre-sliced bread accounted for the overwhelming majority of bread sold in American grocery stores. Then came an even bigger shift. In 1961, British food scientists developed what became known as the Chorleywood bread process, a method of intensive mechanical mixing that allowed bread to be made from start to finish in under 3 hours. compared to the traditional process, which could take a full day or longer. This is the part that should make you think. The Chorleywood process didn't just speed up production. It fundamentally changed what bread actually was. Traditional bread fermentation, given time, breaks down gluten and creates complex flavor compounds. The Chorleywood process skipped almost all of that, relying on mechanical force and chemical additives instead of time. Today, the Chorleywood process is used to produce roughly 80% of the bread sold in the United Kingdom, and similar industrial techniques dominate mass bread production across the States and much of the world. The soft, almost weightless sandwich bread sold in plastic bags on supermarket shelves is, in a very real sense, a completely different food from the bread eaten by humans for the previous 14,000 years. By the late 20th century, something strange started happening. The same industrialized white bread that had once symbolized modern convenience and progress began to be viewed with suspicion. Nutritional research increasingly linked highly processed white bread, stripped of fiber and nutrients during industrial milling, to rising rates of obesity and type 2 diabetes. The glycemic index, a measure of how quickly a food spikes blood sugar, placed industrial white bread alarmingly close to table sugar in terms of its metabolic impact. In the early 2000s, low-carbohydrate diets like Atkins turned bread, once the literal foundation of human civilization, into a dietary villain. Sales of bread in the United States dropped noticeably during the height of the low-carb movement. An ingredient that built the pyramids, fed Roman empires, and toppled the French monarchy, was suddenly something people were actively avoiding. At the same time, a counter-movement emerged. Artisan bakeries began reviving slow fermentation techniques, wild yeast sourdough starters, and traditional milling methods that had largely disappeared during the industrial era. The sourdough boom that exploded globally during 2020, as millions of people stuck at home during pandemic lockdowns turned to baking, was in many ways humanity unconsciously reaching back toward bread's original 12,000-year-old roots. Slow fermentation, wild yeast, and patience. Bread had come full circle. From accidental discovery, to currency, to class symbol, to industrial commodity, to dietary villain, and finally back to something people were rediscovering by hand in their own kitchens. Today, global wheat production exceeds 780 million metric tons per year, grown across nearly every inhabited continent on Earth. Bread in its thousands of regional forms, baguettes in France, naan in India, injera in Ethiopia, tortillas in Mexico, pita across the Middle East, remains one of the most universally consumed foods on the planet, and bread shortages still topple governments. In 1977, bread price increases in Egypt sparked riots so severe the government was forced to reverse the policy within days. In 2008, sharp increases in global wheat prices contributed to food riots across more than 30 countries. Some historians and economists have pointed to rising bread and grain prices as one of the underlying economic pressures that helped ignite the Arab Spring uprisings, beginning in 2010, particularly in Egypt, where bread subsidies have remained one of the most politically untouchable programs in the country for decades. 14,000 years after a group of nomads in the Jordanian desert accidentally discovered that crushed grass seeds and water, cooked on a hot stone, created something worth reorganizing their entire existence around. Humans still cannot escape bread's grip on civilization. It built the first cities, it paid for the pyramids, it pacified an empire, it split medieval society into visible edible classes, it ended a 1,000-year monarchy, and it is still, right now, sitting in your kitchen, completely unremarkable, completely ordinary. and completely capable, under the right conditions, of bringing down a government. Bread was never just food. It never was. If this story surprised you, subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden histories behind everyday things.